Hey Sojourn Kingdom kids, Elijah here, and I'm excited about this lesson that we're going to learn today. It's going to be another incredible, wonderful story about God's Word. But before we jump into action of our epic tale, who remembers our verse of the month? Anybody? Well, our verse is found in Colossians 1:16b through 17. It says, "All things were created through him and for him, and he is before all things. And in him all things consist." That means that all things were made for God and by God. Every plant you walk past, every animal that you see, every person that you've met and will meet in the future was created by God. He is the creator of the universe. This means every time you look up at the stars, every time you see the sunrise, they were put in place by God. He created it, and all things through him. And all things consist. It's just a fancy way of saying nothing would exist without him. With that being said, let's jump right into our story.
After the great flood, God told Noah and his sons to grow their families and fill the earth. Noah's sons and their wives had children. Their families grew, and the people started to travel through the land. At this time, everyone in the world spoke the same language. One day, the people traveled through a valley. They liked it there, and they decided to stay. "We don't want to be scattered all over the earth," they said. "Let's build a city and a tower so big that it touches the sky. The tower will make us famous." The people were not doing what God told them to do. They wanted to be as important as God. They were saying, "Look how great we are," instead of "Look how great God is." They wanted glory for themselves instead of God. But God is greater than anyone. God created people to give glory to him alone. The people made bricks out of clay and baked them in the fire to make stones. Then they used the stones to start building the tower. God came down to look at the tower. God said, "If you were doing this, they will keep thinking up more bad things to do." So God mixed up the people's words. Instead of everyone speaking the same language, everyone spoke different languages. When people tried to make plans, they could not understand what other people were saying. If one workman said, "Hand me another brick," nobody else knew what he wanted. The people had to stop building the city. Families had to move away from each other to live with people they could understand. God made it so the people did just what he told them to do after the flood. They were scattered all over the world. The city with the unfinished tower was called Babel. People chose to give glory to themselves instead of God. They ignored God's plan, so God confused their language and scattered the people all over the earth. One day, Jesus will gather together all of God's people, people from every tribe and people who speak all kinds of languages, and they will worship him together.
Wow, that was crazy, Kingdom Kids. God never ceases to amaze, and he always has a plan. Even when things look rough and like they're getting crazy out of hand, he's still in control of it all. Sometimes it's hard for us to put our trust in something that we can't even see. Remember, boys and girls, he's got the whole world in his hands. He did create it after all. Speaking of creating the world, let's go back to our verse of the month. All things were created through him and for him, and he is before all things, and in him all things consist. Now, can you say it with me this time? All things were created through him and for him, and he is before all things, and in him all things consist. Well, that's all for today, Kingdom Kids. I'll see you next time, and remember, kids can do big things too. Bye!